Before his death, former President Lyndon B. Johnson gave a 3-hour filmed interview to a well-known television commentator. On May 2, 1970, when this interview was shown on a national television network, it included a message that certain material had been deleted at President Johnson's insistence. It has been revealed that in the censored section, Johnson had expressed misgivings about the finding that Lee Harvey Oswald had acted alone, and that in fact, he suspected that a conspiracy had been involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Never before in American history has one family held such an enormous concentration of political power. The plan is perfectly plain. To retain and perpetuate this power for decades. 2 terms for JFK, 2 for Bobby, and 2 for Ted. And in each administration, the brothers who are not president would take over the most powerful cabinet posts. They have several $100 million and some of the best brains on earth to carry it through. They have put together a powerful coalition of big city machines, labor, Negroes, Jews, liberals, and the press that will make him unbeatable in 1964.
Wait a minute, Professor. He's appointed Republicans to the Treasury, to the Navy. Another is head of the CIA. My brother Bobby worked on Joe McCarthy's committee. The old man is further to the right than I am.
Ancient history, Harold. The man's come out for cuts on the oil depletion allowance. He's stopping mergers under the Antitrust Act. He promises to close down 52 domestic and 25 overseas military bases.
Foster, since when you believe the promises of politicians, especially in an election year?
Times have changed, Mr. Ferguson, and tactics along with them. In the next few months, you're going to see JFK do the following. One, he's going to lead the Black Revolution instead of fighting it. Now, we all know what that means, don't we?
Damn right, a white backlash. Federal troops backing up the blacks, blood in the streets.
Two, he's going to try to put across a test ban treaty with the Russians. And three, he's going to try to pull out of Vietnam and turn Asia over to the communists.
Ridiculous. The American public would never stand for that.
Come on, Harold. The American public will stand for what it has to stand for. What it's told to stand for, or what it's educated to stand for.
Done effectively, the public would soon be disenchanted with the war.
Which would make action imperative.
What kind of action?
Executive. I'll take it from here, Bob. Let's all go in the other room.
Why the other room?
Just a short walk. Do you good.
There's nothing wrong with my heart, James.
Tell me, sir, to what do you ascribe your great good health?
Hard liquor and soft women.
Tell that gentleman,
This country was not made by people who sat in their own community and followed their own private interests. Instead, it was made by the men who recognized that change means progress. Progress means the welfare of our people. That's what makes this a great country.
In Europe, heads of state always die at the hands of conspirators. Our presidents are killed by madmen. The pattern is remarkably consistent. Abraham Lincoln, April 14th, 1865. Target, sitting and stationary. Range 6 inches, successful. James Garfield, July 2nd, 1881. Target walking at 2.5 miles per hour. Range 3 feet, successful. William McKinley, September 6th, 1901. Target, standing and stationary. Range, 1 foot. Successful. Theodore Roosevelt, October 14th, 1912. Target, standing and stationary. Range, 6 feet. Wounded. Survived. Franklin D. Roosevelt, February 15th, 1933. Target, sitting and stationary. Range, 23 feet. 5 shots, 5 misses. In no case was the killer an expert marksman. In every case, the Secret Service was unprepared. And in every case, the assassin was a political fanatic willing to die to get the president. Now, no professional technician can be expected to lay his life on the line for such a cause. So we've determined that our action can best be carried out during a motorcade.
How so?
Because they're scheduled well in advance. And they give you a chance to fire from cover and get away in the confusion.
How do you select your operatives?
I can tell you, Harold, now in the old days, you used to have to train your own men from the ground up, keep them on your payroll the rest of their lives. No more.
Wow. You know how many men were fired by the CIA after the Bay of Pigs fiasco? There's a small army of anti-Castro Cubans. They're all available. They can do anything, from picking a lock and bugging an embassy to taking care of an ambassador.
So, how many of them do you need?
A team of 3 men. I've had 2 teams in the field for over a month.
Why, 2?
One team will be selected for action, the other for backup and getaway. These are all men I've used before, Harold. Trained, reliable, professional. Now, 1 man firing from long range at a moving target is out of the question. Even with 2 men, we found the percentages of failure are too high. The only possible scenario is 3 rifles with triangulated fire. 2 firing at a retreating target. The 3rd firing as the target advances.
Three misses, 3 hits. Take the target back. Stand by to go again. Start the target.
Stand by to fire.
Why, there's a climate of violence in the country now, in which anything can happen. The people won't protest it or even fight it for fear of becoming involved.
What about the Secret Service?
They give the president less protection than any other head of state on earth. De Gaulle traveled surrounded by 47 motorcycles. Kennedy with 8, sometimes 10. And none between him and the crowds on the sidewalk. When a Soviet motorcade passes a 10-story building, there's a separate agent to watch each floor. Now, in Jack's motorcades, the agents often travel inside of closed cars. They can't see a damn thing.
And they're paid less than the FBI. They only have target practice twice a year. And they're often used as White House errand boys. And most of their intelligence comes from other agencies.
Which means they get very little. The FBI doesn't give much to anybody. And Hoover, he doesn't like the Kennedys any more than we do.
CIA?
After the Bay of Pigs, its director and his deputy were forced to resign. The mood of the agency may best be described as bitter.
Are you trying to tell me people in the CIA and FBI are going to help with this project?
No. James, how many government intelligence agencies do you have personal knowledge of?
15, maybe 17.
And how many private companies would you say act as fronts for American intelligence?
Private? Or maybe 300 or 400.
Including 6 or 7 of your own?
What one agency finds inconvenient to do may be very simple for another one in the same area.
So you see, there aren't nearly as many secrets as an outsider might imagine.
I can see how that could happen.
And even after a man leaves the government service, he still has ongoing relationships with the various intelligence outfits he's left behind.
Yes, I can see that, too.
And it's that ongoing relationship that gives him access to information. He receives it because he's trusted. That's the way we receive ours.
Yes? Oh, Charlie. Is that so? Let's see. Yes?
Of course, I would have to be worked out.
Yeah,
Thanks very much, Charlie.
quite all right. Bye.
A conspiracy will make us look like a banana republic. We don't have them. That's what we pay our intelligence agencies to prevent. They'll deny a conspiracy down to the last man, lay the whole thing off on some crazy damn fool who did it all on his own.
Who's the crazy damn fool?
He'll be provided.
Charlie McCadden just called from El Paso. Governor Connolly has just left the president. And they made a private agreement that he will make a political pilgrimage to Texas to woo votes, probably in the fall.
Oh, there ought to be a better way of settling things like this. Have you researched the man's private history?
Thoroughly.
Letters in the State Department.
Harold, if you'll forgive me, we're way ahead of you. If we could find some way to discredit him, believe me, we'd have done it by now. Gentlemen, the hour's getting late.
Well, I'm sorry, gentlemen, I'm still unconvinced. Oh, I agree with you that the welfare of this country is worth any man's life, even the president's. But my advice, for what it's worth to you, is wait.
I'll see you to your car.
Harold? Harold?
Oh, before I took over Transjordanian Oil, my own intelligence men had to eliminate a little local opposition. I understand these things. I just don't like them. They're tolerable only if they're necessary and permissible only if they work. Good day.
I was in charge of that Trans-Jordanian operation.
The hell?
Arranged it with German intelligence. A technician on that job is out there right now, training Team B.
Okay, Lee. Take her out. Okay, Chris. Take it out. Okay, Dick. Take it up to 15 feet. Hold it. That's good. Okay, hold it. That's good. Okay, that's good. Lock it off. Start the action. Fire. I got 3 hits on target. 1 hit on number 2, a miss.
7 seconds and 2 misses. It's probably a kill, but we're 2 seconds overtime. So we'll have to slow the target down. With the most accurate rifle on Earth, we've still got a 2-inch spread on either side for every 100 yards. So at 20 miles an hour, it's too much. Hmm? Yeah. Let's get a beer.
Commencement exercises at American University gain world significance when President Kennedy reveals 2 major decisions on Western relations with Russia. Addressing the graduates, Mr. Kennedy makes a stirring plea for world peace and says,
First, Chairman Khrushchev, Prime Minister Macmillan, and I have agreed that high-level discussions will shortly begin in Moscow, looking towards early agreement on a comprehensive test ban treaty. I now declare that the United States does not propose to conduct nuclear tests in the atmosphere so long as other states do not do so. This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression.
Jim, sit down. Are you hungry?
Thanks, I've eaten. How's the team?
Well, that can be done in 5 or 6 seconds. But only if we slow the target to under 15 miles an hour. Otherwise, you take chances.
All right, we'll work on that. Any cover problem?
No, no problem. We're supposed to be hunters. And I take it that's what we actually are.
Correct. Here's your expense money.
Say, when are you going to throw a little light on this play?
This is not quite a standard operation. I'm being run as tight as you are.
You mean is that each of us knows only his own job?
Put it in any words you like.
Well, the company must be running a couple other teams. Are we number one?
2 teams only. And there's a good chance that you'll see action. Maybe before Thanksgiving.
How soon will we find out what the options are?
The probabilities for success are almost 100%.
And like the Bay of Pigs.
Now, look, you're a high-risk man. You're on contract. Your men are all experienced in black operations. You take your chances and you get paid for it, and damn well.
Okay, Jim.
I'll tell you this much. I've never seen a better cover plan in all my life. Every man jack of you will be out of the country within 36 hours. New passports, new identities. Plus $25,000 each just for spending money.
I like that. Tell me more.
You'll stay out of the country for 2 years. You'll receive $25,000 a year via Switzerland for the next 5 years.
All of us?
I said every man jack involved in the operation. And 5 years from now, on January 2nd, 1968, provided no one has broken security, each man will find $100,000 in his own personally numbered Swiss bank account.
Jesus. You just told me who we're gonna hit.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds.
Okay.
It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. My fellow Americans, this is a problem which faces us all, in every city of the North as well as the South. Today, there are Negroes unemployed 2 or 3 times as many compared to whites. Inadequate education, moving into the large cities, unable to find work, denied equal rights. We cannot say to 10% of the population that you can't have that right. Your children can't have the chance to develop whatever talents they have. That the only way that they're going to get their rights is to go in the street and demonstrate. I think we owe them and we owe ourselves a better country than that.
The computer threw out 14 possible goats, or sponsors as we like to call them. A young man named Lee Harvey Oswald seems the best. Born in New Orleans, 1939. Father dead. Mother remarried and divorced. Boy was placed in an orphanage for a while, then shunted about with his mother till he was 17. You can start now, Tim. He has a remarkably muddled political record that could be steered strongly to the left.
On October 24, 1956, 7 days after his 17th birthday, subject enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. Attended aviation fundamental school at Naval Air Station in Jacksonville, Florida, studying basic radar theory, map reading, and air traffic control procedures. Began studying Russian language and taking pro-communist attitudes. Fellow Marines called him Oswaldovich and Rusky.
In the Marine Corps? Not a chance. They're preparing a cover for him.
Naval intelligence?
Either that or CIA.
Go ahead, Tim.
Arrived in Yokosuka, Japan aboard the Bexar for assignment at Atsugi, 20 miles west of Tokyo.
Isn't that where we monitored the U-2s over China?
And a lot of other stuff.
Court-martialed on June 27th for pouring a drink over a non-commissioned officer's head and use of insulting language. Confined 28 days at hard labor.
Only 28 days? They're not only giving him a cover, they're fixing him a phony.
On August 17, 1959, he requested a dependency discharge on the ground that his mother required his support. Discharge was granted September 11th.
Well, that was easy.
Easier than you think. Watch this.
To get the discharge, he needed a doctor's affidavit. Otolaryngologist Marvin Danvers gave one, saying he started treating Oswald's mother on September 5, even though his letter is dated September 3.
Well, I'll be goddamned.
On the same day, September 4, Oswald applied for and received a passport. Quote, in order to attend Albert Schweitzer College, unquote. Passport granted. Good for European travel, including USSR. Arrived in Moscow October 16. ordered to leave USSR by 8 p.m. October 21.
The Ruskies weren't buying.
Slashed his wrist same day, taken to Botkinskaya Hospital, released a week later. Visited U.S. Embassy on October 31. Stated his determination to revoke American citizenship and turn classified data over to the Russians. Can find no record that Embassy tried to dissuade him from handing over classified material.
How much did he actually have?
Location of all bases on the West Coast, radio frequencies for all squadrons, all tactical call signs, strength of squadrons, number and type of aircraft in each, names of commanding officers, and the authentic code for entering and exiting the ADIZ radio and radar ranges.
Jeez.
On January 4, 1960, Oswald receives permission to remain in the USSR for 1 year.
They're beginning to buy.
On January 5, he is given 5,000 rubles and assigned to work at the Belarusian radio and television factory in Minsk.
They've bought.
In 1961, he writes a series of letters to the embassy concerning possible return to the United States.
When was Power shot down in that U-2?
May 1, 1960. He was there all right. But I'm not sure there was any connection. They've been spotting our U-2s for a long time. Thanks, Tim. I'll take it from here.
Right, Mr. Farrington.
On March 17th, he met a young lady, a graduate pharmacist. 6 weeks later, they were married. As a result of Oswald's letters, the State Department informed Embassy that for security reasons, Oswald should be given a passport. There was a long wrangle with the Russians about exit visas for his wife, but everything on our side was as smooth as silk. The embassy issued a passport. They lent him $435 in traveling expenses, and he passed through immigration June 13th, 1962, en route to Fort Worth.
Did anyone meet them at immigration?
A representative of the Concerned Travelers Society, named Ralph P. Waterford, to help them through customs, or so he said.
That name familiar?
There's a Ralph P. Waterford known in Taiwan as the Secretary General for the World Campaign Against Communism, Inc.
Now, who would have sent him?
God knows. You get into that area, there's so many little double and triple headers that you can't count them all. Tim? All the intelligence agencies have files on him. He was interviewed twice last year by the FBI that we know of. And there's a report out that the State Attorney General and the Dallas District Attorney have got him labeled as FBI informant number S-172.
He could be. Defecting, coming back, running into no trouble at all. He could be anything. CIA, Office of Naval Intelligence, anything. Lowest possible echelon, of course. A few dollars here, a few there. Possibly a little doubling.
Listen. On January 27th of this year, he bought a mail-order Smith & Wesson 38 under a phony name. And in March, he bought a mail-order 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano rifle. In May, he was distributing fair play for Cuban literature in Dallas.
Can we rely on a character like this?
We're not relying on him. We're using him. I've got someone placed very close to him.
Get a little air.
Go ahead. I want to check the stock market first.
Real problem is this, James. 2 decades, there will be 7 billion human beings on this planet. Most of them brown, yellow, or black. All of them hungry. All of them determined to love. They'll swarm out of their breeding grounds into Europe and North America. Hence Vietnam. An all-out effort there will give us control of South Asia for decades to come. And with proper planning, we can reduce the population to 550 million by the end of the century. I know. I've seen the data.
We sound rather like gods reading the Doomsday Book, don't we?
Well, someone has to do it. Not only will the nations affected be better off, but the techniques developed there can be used to reduce our own excess population. Blacks, Puerto Ricans, Mexican Americans, poverty-prone whites, and so forth.
Do you swear or affirm that the statements in the application are true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Do you swear and affirm your allegiance to the United States of America?
I do.
For 24 hours service, it's $2.
George Bernard Shaw, speaking as an Irishman, summed up an approach to life. Other people, he said, see things and say, why? But I dream things that never were, and I say, why not? The problems of the world cannot possibly be solved by skeptics or cynics whose horizons are limited by the obvious realities. We need...
Yes? 24 hours?
Not only that, he stated on his application that his previous passport had been lifted and that he intended to travel to Russia.
He can't be just crazy on his own. He defects, they lift his passport, and on 24 hours' notice, he gets another one to travel back to Russia? Ah, somebody must be behind him. Oh, yes, indeed. Worth his weight in gold.
We call this our Cubanization process. Here our sponsor distributes Fair Play for Cuba leaflets on Canal Street, New Orleans.
Who's the other man?
Picked him up in an employment office, $2 an hour. We've repeated this process 4 times in the last 10 days. The address on the leaflets is 611 Copp Street, Howard Grimm's building. You remember him? Special agent in charge of the Chicago FBI office. We used him in '61 as an equipment purchaser for our Cuban friends.
Well, Grimm has an office in that building himself. Is that wise?
Well, no matter. Grimm's organization is on La Follette Street, the Anti-Communist League of the Caribbean. I like that. They cancel each other out. No one's been able to put them together yet.
I don't like it, but it's done. When are you getting him into Dallas?
Not for another month, at least. Our New Orleans scenario still calls for a street corner fight and an arrest, and possibly some radio interviews. TV if we're lucky.
He doesn't know he's being handled, does he?
No. That's being taken care of by someone who's known him for years. You heard anything from the old man?
Not yet.
Go ahead without him?
Difficult to say. Very difficult. In the meantime, we'll push on and hope that Kennedy makes up his mind for us.
Just a little water.
I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
We Orders from God?
What the hell would they be sending us to Montana for?
Help fight American imperialism. Join the Fair Play for Cuba Committee.
I know you, deadbeat bastard! You're right, Castro. You came to our office of Cuban students in exile, took some material, and here you are, handing out the draft. Why don't you go to Cuba and stay there?
He's taking them away now.
A full-scale nuclear exchange lasting less than 60 minutes with the weapons now in existence could wipe out more than 300 million Americans, Europeans, and Russians, as well as untold millions elsewhere. That's why I support the test ban treaty. Not because we're going to be easier in our lives, but because we have a chance to avoid being burned.
The reason that I'm worried about this treaty is because I believe that this treaty is a step away from safety, possibly a step toward war.
A pact hailed by a hopeful majority as signaling peace in our time actually turns out to be a first step on the path to disaster.
This treaty is not the millennium, but it is an important first step, a step towards peace. Let history record that we, in this land, at this time, took the first step.
The man's creating the perfect climate for his death. They sometimes do, you know. Caesar did.
In that event, what do you hear from our elderly Brutus?
Ferguson says, in effect, don't call me, I'll call you. How's your stand-in for Brutus doing?
Oh, he's doing fine. Heading up a Fair Play for Cuba committee that doesn't exist. Writing letters to the Communist Party in New York. And after that street brawl, he demanded that an FBI man come down to see him.
When will he be in Dallas?
Between the 3rd and 5th of October. His wife's there now, living outside of the city with a friend.
Well, why wait so long?
Well, he wants to go to Mexico City to try to get a visa to go to Cuba.
Is that your idea?
No. But there's no way to stop him without making him angry with our connection. I don't see any harm in it, do you?
Man's a genius. He'll have the FBI watching the CIA and the CIA watching the Bureau. Before he's through, nobody will know whose man he is.
Meanwhile, I've scheduled 2 live target rehearsals, one for each team.
Good.
And one more thing, Robert. When this operation is finished, it's my last.
Why, of course. We all have our failures of nerve. If we didn't, none of us would be worth a damn.
George, in one of the negatives, you shaded him a bit.
Yeah, I know.
I only printed up the hits. None of them were really far off.
Look at that. Right on target.
Beautiful. The front angle shot's wide open.
It's gonna work.
Sure it is.
Okay, now we're supposed to be on the road before 9. Destroy these.
Tim, show them the pros and cons of that motorcade.
The most direct route from Love Field to the Trade Mart where the lunch will be is either by Stemmons Freeway, here, or Harry Hines Boulevard, which is here. To get the biggest crowds, however, the best route would be straight down to Main Street, down Main Street, and through Dealey Plaza.
Where did you say you placed your sponsor?
Texas School Book Depository, Elm in Houston. I went to work there yesterday.
Here's the depository. In order for the motorcade to pass it, they'd have to make a jog right on Houston Street and left on Elm here, and then through the underpass to Stemmons Freeway.
Isn't that a long way around to nowhere?
It's the perfect place for triangulated gunfire. A man in the records building here, another man in the depository, a third man here on the grassy knoll, where he has excellent cover. They'll have to slow down to 10 to 12 miles an hour to make this turnoff. And when they've reached this point, they've walked right into the trap. And there's no way they can get out of it.
That's where you want the parade to go. That's where it'll go. I can think of a dozen arguments right now and a dozen people who listen to them. But let me handle it.
Where will you start? In Washington?
President's there to please people, isn't he? Businessmen, bankers, merchants, so forth. They do the deciding on where he goes. And when it comes to those fellas, I know where the bear sits in the buckwheat. Dealey Plaza. I'll guarantee it.
That leaves us with just one problem. Ferguson's got to be convinced in the next week or two.
Tonight, the news from Saigon is grim indeed, as riots sweep the city and the government of courageous President Diem hangs in the balance. Radical students and Buddhist activists are demonstrating in the streets, while government troops battle desperately to subdue them. In protest, another Buddhist monk has burned himself to death. And what is our president doing to support Diem? This from Washington.
Is there any speed up in the withdrawal from Vietnam?
Well, you know, when Secretary McNamara and General Taylor came back, they announced that we would expect to withdraw 1,000 men from South Vietnam before the end of the year.
Reliable sources inform us that Kennedy plans to withdraw all United States forces from Southeast Asia in 1965. A vital region which will inevitably fall to the communists should our president's suicidal no-win policy prevail. For in
Yes,
spite of
Robert,
Secretary of
I can
Defense
see your point.
McNamara's optimistic
I'm in
statement
complete agreement.
on his return from
By all
Vietnam,
means,
the
go
war was
ahead.
going well.
$1.99 first tip. Joe shall return no more to his house, neither shall his place know him anymore.
Chris, open up for a minute.
Jesus, I got somebody in here.
Okay, you come out here. It'll only take a minute.
I'll be back in a minute.
What? Close the door.
You got something, huh?
It's our job.
For sure?
Start packing. Tell the boys.
We picked up this film in New Orleans. It's a TV interview with Oswald after he got in that hassle passing out the pro-Castro leaflets. No matter what you say, Jim, the point of it is you must be remembered. 10 days from now, if they hear you described, they must say, "Oh yes, I saw him. He was here." Do you understand?
I've got it.
It's equally important that we set him up planning the event. He owns a rifle with a scope, but he's never used it. Give him visibility in a gun shop. We'll provide you a rifle similar to his. We also want to see him practicing.
Can't you arrange to borrow his rifle?
That's programmed for later when we're certain he won't miss it. Let's do some more homework.
But that does not mean, however, that I'm a communist.
Communist.
What is the difference between the two?
Well, there's a great deal of difference. Several American parties in several countries are based on Marxism, such as Ghana.
Certain countries have characteristics of socialist systems, such as Great Britain with its socialized medicine.
These, then, are the differences between an outright communist country and countries which adhere to leftist or Marxist
principles.
In your work with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, what are you advocating?
We advocate restoration of diplomatic, trade, and tourist relations with Cuba.
Hi. What can I do for you? Well, could you drill this to mount a telescopic sight?
Sure can.
How soon? I'm going to need it any day now.
Well, be ready in a couple of days.
Fine.
All right. What's the name?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Good.
Thanks.
912 Martin Street. Irving. Garage. Got it. I'll let you know. Chris.
All yours. 6.5 Mannlicher Gaetano. Jesus Christ, the Italians stopped making this in 1941. That's 22 years ago. Let's go.
She's a real fine piece of weaponry, isn't she?
The Italians in World War II called it the rifle that never hurt anybody, on purpose. The bolt sticks, it's got a two-stage trigger, and the scope is off .02 to the left, and it has a 9.5-inch drop.
Oh, can you adjust to it?
Oh, sure. I'm gonna need a hell of a lot more practice before countdown.
That's one hell of a buy, friend. In case you're looking for first-class transportation. Won't cost you an arm and a leg.
How much?
$19.95. Radio, heater, white walls included.
Well, if it's such a hell of a buy, why haven't you sold it?
Only been here the last couple of days.
Bullshit. I saw this car on the lot last Monday.
What you saw here last Monday was the same model, but it wasn't this car.
What'd you get for it?
$100 more than I'm asking for this one.
Jesus. You mean you'd do that to some poor, dumb Texas burr picker?
What the hell are you talking about Texas like that for?
Because if I was a doctor and I wanted to give the world an enema, I'd stick the nozzle right here in Dallas, Texas.
Before I kick you in the ass, can you tell me a better place than Texas?
Yeah, Russia. In Russia, they make a car called the Volga that'd make
this communist bastard. Get out of here. Get off my lot. Who the hell do you think you are anyway?
The name's Oswald. Lee Oswald. And if you ever learn how to spell, you can have a lot of fun trying to write it down.
It'll come in handy at the right time to leak to the press.
The face doesn't look enough like him to pass muster with me. Get a picture of the sponsor himself and tip it in. Can do.
Apple pie.
Tim. Give him a pistol with a holster in it. And a telescopic sight for the rifle, too.
Everything in order?
So far.
Hey, buddy, you're firing at the wrong target. That's my target. Hey, mister, you're firing at my target. Hey, would you mind if you just fired your own?
Why don't you take a flying screw at the moon and charge it to me?
I'll be glad to, you son of a bitch. You just tell me your name.
Lee Oswald. O-S-W-A-L-D.
Hey, Ralph!
Outside the Dallas Municipal Auditorium, a large number of pickets gave UN Ambassador Adlai Stevenson a hot reception last night when he came to give a speech in honor of United Nations Day. And the audience inside wasn't a bit more friendly.
manners, do I? Well, I do hope all the pickets will come in and sit down. Because for my part, I believe in the forgiveness of sin and the redemption of ignorance.
Stevenson told friends that he was going to advise President Kennedy not to make that forthcoming trip to Dallas because of the hostile atmosphere in that city.
You see your position?
Yeah, behind that fence on top.
Okay, let's take it down.
On November 22nd, the only important officials remaining in Washington, D.C. will be McNamara and Robert Kennedy. The Secretaries of State, Treasury, Interior, Commerce, and Labor will be in the air en route to Tokyo. The President and Vice President will be in Dallas. To confuse matters and give your men as much time as possible, a code will be removed from the Tokyo-bound cabinet plane. And the Washington, D.C. telephone system will suffer a temporary blackout.
That will help.
The Secret Service are under regular orders to stay with the president no matter what happens. Once they get him to the hospital, they'll probably filter back. But for at least a half hour, you should be entirely free of them.
I'll have 6 men with Secret Service credentials in Dealey Plaza. Their insignia for this trip, incidentally, is double white bars on red.
I forgot to mention that the chief of the White House detail has decided to stay in Washington.
Good. Now to the intelligence agencies. In going through Oswald's address book, our contact man came across the name and telephone number of somebody called Fred Hastings. Now, Hastings, it turns out, is an FBI man working out of the Dallas office. You know him.
Oswald has his telephone number? I was about to mention Mr. Hastings. He's visited Mrs. Oswald once and her landlady twice since the 1st of the month. He knows that Oswald works in the book depository. And we must assume he also knows that the president's motorcade will pass the book depository. Yet neither the local nor the Washington office of the FBI has reported that to the Secret Service.
And what about other Oswald files?
The Office of Naval Intelligence is watching him. The CIA regularly monitors his mail. Yet no one has reported anything to the Secret Service. They don't even know that Lee Harvey Oswald exists. His name appears nowhere in their files. Let's have a drink. Dallas has one of the highest murder rates in the country. In the last 2 years, the Secret Service has established 149 threats against Kennedy's life from Texas alone. Yet they send him into hostile territory with no more protection than you and I would arrange for a favorite dog. What would you say if I told you that as of November 8th, the Secret Service files find not one individual in the entire Fort Worth, Dallas territory who represents a potential threat to the president's security?
I'd believe it. Also, there will be no search of the buildings in Dealey Plaza. And there'll be no Secret Service men stationed in Dealey Plaza. Not one.
Good.
The lead car will carry the chief of police, the county sheriff, and the 2 top-ranking Secret Service agents. It'll be a closed car. They won't be able to see a thing.
Soon be over. And there'll be nothing we can call our own but death. That small model of the barren earth which serves as paste and cover to our bones. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings.
President John F. Kennedy is getting a warm welcome this morning here in Fort Worth, the 3rd stop in his whirlwind trip through our state. After this breakfast meeting with the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce, the President and First Lady will fly to Dallas.
This is from one of our people in Fort Worth. Last night in Fort Worth, 9 Secret Service agents went to the Fort Worth Press Club for drinks. 7 of the 9 remained till 2 in the morning. All 3 night guards left the hotel and went to the cellar house. Secret Service rules state that use of intoxicating liquor is strictly prohibited while agents are on travel status, as these agents were. 4 of the 9 who violated rules last night have key responsibilities in the Dallas motorcade.
Beautiful sight.
service.
Hey, you. Come here. Who are you?
Hell, I work here.
You work here, too?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have just arrived here at Parkland Hospital. It's hard to tell what's really going on. People here with dazed looks on their faces. Police are keeping everybody out. Very difficult to believe this has happened. We understand they're giving the president blood transfusions and fighting very hard to save his life.
Word just came through on Secretary Russ Hughes' ticker. The president's been shot. Get me the fence. Something's happened to my code book.
Hello? Hello? Defense Department? Is this the... Hello? Hello?
Have you called him yet?
There's no answer, Senator. The line went dead.
I'm sorry, our lines are temporarily out of order.
I'm sorry, our lines are out of order.
I'm sorry, sir, our lines are temporarily out of order. Sorry, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president is dead. We've just been given word that President John Kennedy is dead. They've administered the last rites of the Catholic Church to President John F. Kennedy.
Nothing about Oswald.
Police have arrested a man whom they suspect of being involved in the assassination of President Kennedy. He was apprehended in the Oak Cliff area after allegedly killing a policeman.
I didn't shoot anybody, no, sir. I'm just a patsy.
I'm just a patsy.
This wasn't in the scenario, was it, Mr. Farrington? No scenario was perfect, Tim. Probably realized the position he'd been placed in. Slipped out of the depository, stopped by his room for the gun, and then ran into the policeman and panicked. Find out what's happened, Tim.
Okay, Mr.
Has
Farrington.
been identified as Lee Harvey Oswald.
I'll have to leave
employee
Dallas.
Of the Texas Book Depository overlooking Dealey Plaza, where the president was shot. So far, the police are releasing no further
It's terrible,
information
Jaime, terrible.
about Oswald. But
No,
obviously
you don't
they
understand.
attach prime importance
I gotta get
to
out of
his
this
arrest.
town. I'm thinking of coming back to Chicago.
There's only one thing that I can tell you, that this case is cinched. That this man killed the president. There's no question in my mind about it.
Chief, can you tell us in summary what directly links Oswald to the killing of the president?
Well, the fact that he was on the floor where the shots were fired from immediately before the shots were fired, the fact that he was seen carrying a package to the building.
The ballistic test, we haven't had a final report, but it is, I understand, will be favorable.
But if we can put his prints on the rifle, I certainly would connect him with the rifle.
Are there any other suspects linked with Oswald?
No.
Thank you.
Is there any indication that this was an organized plot, or was it just one man?
There's no one else but him. Stuttgart, gate 12.
Thank you. Let's go.
Jack, where is everybody?
The joint's closed. Didn't you see the sign?
No, I came to the back way. What's wrong?
What's wrong? You stupid bitch. Don't you read the newspapers? They killed Kennedy this afternoon.
Sure, I know that, Jack, but why are we closing down?
Because it looks good, that's why. Now get out of here. Go on home.
Okay.
Hey, wait a minute. I gave your number to a guy named Berger, Henry Berger. He's a new cop. He may get lonesome. Give you a call tonight. If he does, you fix him up, huh?
Sure, I'll fix him up.
May I bring you a drink, sir? Drink, sir?
Yeah, vodka rocks.
I really don't know what the situation is about. Nobody has told me anything except that I'm accused of murdering a policeman. I know nothing more than that, and I do request someone to come forward to give me a legal assistance.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
How did you hurt your eye, Mr. Osborne?
A policeman hit me.
You okay?
Considering I hit the wrong guy, yes.
Here comes Oswald down the hall again. You fire that rifle.
Dispatches you people have been given, but I emphatically deny these charges.
What will he tell them?
Further questions? So far,
Very little.
Police have revealed no further information since their first statement. Nothing.
Sergeant, now, you say he was interrogated yesterday at 4:30, right? And again at 6:20, right?
Yeah.
And once more at 7:40. Now, how many hours of interrogation did that come to?
I don't rightly know because I'm not sure when the last interrogation ended.
Was the interrogation taped or recorded?
No, sir.
Was it taken down by a stenotypist?
No, sir.
Was it taken down by a secretary in shorthand?
No, sir.
Has Captain Fritz had any of his notes transcribed?
No, sir.
Well, why not?
No, sir. Didn't keep any notes.
Well, how do you know what he said in those 3 interrogations?
Oh, we got a pretty good idea what he said, all right.
Sergeant, what time are you transferring him to the county jail tomorrow?
We haven't decided on what time yet, but when we do, you boys will get a break on it. You always have, haven't you now?
Wait.
Just one more question.
In Washington, a silent crowd is gathered outside the White House on this grim and somber Saturday, maintaining a patient vigil, while high government officials and ambassadors of many nations.
Stan? Jack Ruby. Have you gotten any word when they're going to transfer him to the county jail? Oh? Yeah? Okay.
Why do you think he would want to kill the president?
The only thing I do is take the evidence presented to jury, and I don't pass on why he did it or anything else. We're just interested in proving that he did it, which I think we have.
How many cases of this type have you been involved in? That is, when the death penalty is involved.
Since I've been district attorney, I've asked the death penalty in 24 cases.
And how many times have you attained it?
23.
There is Lee Oswald. There is the prisoner being let out by Captain Fritz.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's a man with absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Detectives have their guns drawn. Oswald has been shot.
Stay with me. Did you see it?
Sorry to drive, can't tell you that.
Would you be willing to say, with all this evidence, that it is now beyond a reasonable doubt at all that Oswald was the killer of President Kennedy?
I would say that without any doubt, he's the killer. The law says beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty, which there's no question that he was the killer of President Kennedy.
That case is closed in your mind.
As far as Oswald's concerned, yes.
It's so unlikely, I don't see how anyone can believe it.
Everyone will believe it. They want to believe it. They have to. People, the government, everyone.
Even his brother? He's the Attorney General, for God's sake.
True. But he's not thinking as Attorney General tonight. He's grieving for a murdered brother. By the time his grief subsides, all the power will have passed. It'll be too late.
Yes? That's right. Hold the body there. We'll make arrangements in the morning. That's right, thank you. Good night. That was Tim. James Farrington. Heart attack. Parkland Hospital.
In the 3 years after the murders of President Kennedy and Lee Harvey Oswald, 18 material witnesses died, 6 by gunfire, 3 in motor accidents, 2 by suicide, 1 from a cut throat, 1 from a karate chop to the neck, 3 from heart attacks, and 2 from natural causes. An actuary engaged by the London Sunday Times concluded that on November 22, 1963, the odds against these witnesses being dead by February 1967 were 100,000 trillion to 1.